Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Wolverine number 51, cover dated February 1992. Now the cover is by Andy Kubert, pencils and inks by Kubert. So Mark Silvestri taking a break after the double-sized issue number 50. And this is a great cover. I've always thought that this was a well-designed, eye-catching, colourful cover. And the pose on Wolverine, when you look at it, it's original. I don't know anyone else who's drawn him like that. Obviously howling, crying with madness there. Aloud, really love the tension in his arms and the extension, of course, of the claws there. Looks really good. And but when you pay more attention to it and you have a look at his left leg, it's coming right out of his left hip there. So that's anatomically impossible, but I think it's well, I don't know, it looks well. I like the composition, and also it's intriguing here to see Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike defeated on the ground. But who's this here? I've wondered about that, and my best guess is it's supposed to be Professor X, implying that Wolverine has gone absolutely mad. So the cover logo, or rather the logo for the title is extra large there. Looks as if Wolverine is howling his own name. Yeah, I like this one. I like Kubert's pencils and inks on this. I like the colors too, whoever they're by. And this begins a three-part storyline, Crunch Conundrum. So this is part 1 of 3. Let's open it up to the first page. And we get a splash here of Wolverine, and he's in the danger room and he's taking on these off-the-shelf androids here and ripping into them. So the title of the story is Heartbreak Motel. We'll get to the motel towards the back end of the issue. The creative credits are down here. We've got script by Larry Hama, guest pencils Andy Kubert, inks by Dan Green. So it's interesting to see Kubert being inked by Dan Green and what Green makes of Kubert's pencils. I think it's a good combination, and maybe this is the only place we see it. Lettering by Pat Brousseau and colors by Steve Buccellato. So Wolverine going berserk in the danger room. We've got a first-person narration there. We've set the danger room attack sequence at maximum threat for the full-scale solo combat mode. So who is speaking? Let's turn the page and see. It is Forge who's speaking there, and we're not even monitoring very much of a heartbeat and respiration increase in Wolverine. So nice vertical panel there, really gives Andy Kubert the room and space to draw Wolverine's arm there with the claws. I think he does a good job. And who is up there in the monitoring booth except for Forge? Professor X, Jubilee, Cyclops, and Storm. So in this era, Cyclops is the leader of the blue team, and Storm the leader rather of the gold team. So they're both watching Wolverine in the danger room, and they're debating there about his new ferocity. And Forge here questioning Xavier about the parameters of the training sequence. You don't think we've been batting in the dark all this time, Forge? So he basically, Xavier wants the level on the sequence changed and raised. Jubilee here protesting. Cyclops Storm, that last combat module is sneaking up behind Wolvie, and Cyclops says, patience, Jubilee. He knows it is there, he's just playing, and indeed he destroys the combat module. So Wolverine there, just very nonchalant, ho-hum, he says, that the best you can throw at me? Thought this was the danger room, ought to rename it, or you could be sued for fake advertising. So he's looking for a tougher sequence, a real challenge is what the professor offers him. But I'm reminded as I read this of Uncanny X-Men 129 by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, where Wolverine was so over the danger room and danger room sequences like this. He wasn't into it at all. So there has been a change in his personality. The same again with Adjectiveless X-Men number 1. He really wasn't interested or into doing anything in the danger room. But here he is. He says he ain't going nowhere. So the professor musing here Too many variables to extrapolate the consequences accurately. I don't need side talent to know what you're thinking, Professor, says Forge. Wolverine's different now, wilder. The removal of those memory blocks that was in issue 49 affected a profound change. So the Professor says we don't know how he's going to react when pushed to the edge, but isn't it better to find out in the danger room than in the real world? Get ready, Wolverine. I'm punching up a new threat program for you. If you will don the virtual reality visualizer and sensors, we shall begin. Now, I don't understand this piece because the danger room in this era is powered by Shi'ar solid hologram technology. So why is the Professor suggesting that Wolverine go for this low tech by comparison simulation? So he puts on the helmet. He says, reminds me of something else I can't remember. That was the helmet he wore in the, Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. So he doesn't have complete memories of that with the battery pack. And what does the Professor say? The virtual reality program is booted and running. Be warned, this program is interactive. Your opponents are Shingen and Ogun. So these are old antagonists of Logan's from his forays to Japan. And what does he say about it? He says they don't look much like the real thing, but then neither do I. So we're getting this kind of Lawnmower Man, pixelated, like 1980s style virtual reality visualization here in Andy Kubert's pencils, like a kind of a video game. And what does the Professor say? He says, suspension of disbelief is cumulative in virtual reality. So Wolverine responds, is that so? Those refugees from a Dire Straits video. See what I mean about the like 1980s computer visuals? Got to go a long way to convince me, says Wolverine. So the Professor hits the button, and we're into the sequence now. So Shingen and Ogun come towards Wolverine. He easily dispatches, or he parries their blows there, pops his claws, and let's see. So he attacks them, destroys them, and then he says, how'd you like them apples, huh? Mess with the old adamantium-laced mutant, he'll put a world of hurt in ya. But now something changes. So we see Shingen and Ogun more like their real-world counterparts. Don't boast, Gaijin. That was Wazare at the most, a half point. So I think this is a language or terminology from sumo wrestling. Someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. To win a match against Shingen and Ogun, you must score Ippon, full point. So what does Wolverine says? He says, full point, I'll give you 6 full points. I like that in Hama's script. Right at the tips, oh my adamantium steel claws. So, here we go. Jubilee's worried about Wolverine. Who's he talking to? And Cyclops says his brain is augmenting the visual input, supplying dialogue. Storm gets concerned. Aural hallucinations. This has gone too far. Ford says fleshing out is a normal reaction to this type of imaging. We still haven't seen what he'll do in an over-the-top stress situation. Forge is right, says the Professor. We need to know the full extent of the change in Wolverine. I'm going to double the threat level. And you see the look on Jubilee's face? That's nicely done by Kubert and Green. You better know what you're doing, she whispers. So this is intriguing because it kind of parallels all the virtual reality experiments that were done on Wolverine in Weapon X. And that was on the say-so and program of one professor there. And this is our Professor Xavier, and he's doing the same thing. So Jubilee's concerned, Storm's concerned, but Cyclops not so much. And here we go. So new antagonists added to the virtual reality scenario. So we get Sabretooth, we get Lady Deathstrike. So now it's the cover. So I see. So the person on the cover then is Shingen. That is the character on the cover there. Here, not Professor X. So that answers that. Nice top-down angle here on Wolverine, getting ready to combat the simulations. And so we're in the virtual reality there. We can see him going to town on his opponents, and then we get a look at him like dancing around in the danger room with nothing around him, which is intriguing to see that. And what does the professor say? Extraordinary. He's regressed to the emotional response pattern of a berserker killer ape, but he retains highly sophisticated combat skills and is capable of complex strategic decisions within a compressed time frame, the equivalent of an Olympic gymnast doing a gold medal routine while simultaneously beating 4 chess computers in his head. So that's really interesting in terms of an analysis of what kind of performance Wolverine's putting on in the danger room. There he is growling away. Let's turn the page. He defeats everyone. That's his victory howl there, which we saw a version of this on the cover. Yeah, that's that little scene interpreted differently by Andy Kubert for the cover. Why is he howling? Asked Jubilee. Do the brainwave monitors show any regressive patterns? Or maybe it's Storm says that. Negative across the board. He's just letting off steam. So Storm says this is intolerable. I won't be part of this. And of course, Wolverine and Storm developed a close relationship during the Outback era. Cyclops, who has a little frostier relationship with Wolverine, turns his back to on the sequence and says, neither will I. But the Professor insists he requested this himself. Storm says he didn't ask to be pushed to the edge of his humanity. Jubilee stays in the booth. Why is Wolvie different, Professor X? She asks, what happened up in Canada? And the Professor says, the man we know as Logan has had his memory tampered with extensively. For all we know, the personality we are seeing now could be his original true self. And that brings us all the way back to the first chapter, like the prologue of Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X story. So is this who Logan was? And is that what he's gone back to after having the memory blocks removed? Is that what we're seeing here? Later, Logan's washed up after the training sequence, and Jubilee is skating up behind him. She says, going out, huh? And so real laconic replies from Wolverine. Yeah, he responds. On your scoot? She asks. Yeah. Could catch a cold riding with your hair wet? Not hardly, he says. And so she starts asking, can I? No. Why not? I ain't going to no petting zoo, he says. Going to that horrible Auger Inn again, she asks. What do you like about that sleazy dive? Great shot of him there on his motorbike. Really good stuff from Andy Kubert in this particular panel. The pretzels ain't soggy, he says. The pool table is level and the jukebox is cranked to 10. And then, as he hits the start button on his motorbike, well, besides, what's it to you? So Wolverine is changed indeed. He's lost that heart that he had, that he developed over the course of Claremont writing him for the 16 years of Claremont's run, where Wolverine became like the moral center of the X-Men. This is a grimmer, colder hearted version of the character, but also one who's more ferocious, more animal-like, more hormonal, as we'll see. Jubilee here, sad, saying nothing. It's nothing to me, but we know it's everything to her. Really like that shot of, you just see the back, the silhouette of Wolverine, his hair, his distinctive hairstyle there as he rides down the driveway out to down to Salem Center. So here he is at this dive bar playing pool, and then this woman comes up to him. Look at this shot here, and Wolverine asks, who's the next who's the next victim? I am, replies the woman. Stack your quarters next to it. But then he sees who he's talking to. Yes, next to what? You didn't get dressed up like that to shoot no 8-ball with no hoi polloi. You're absolutely right, she replies. These quarters might be better spent on music. Are you going to buy me a drink? Name your poison, he says. Kier. So that's an interesting drinks order for this particular down at heel bar with this clientele. Ain't got no Kier, says the bartender. And Wolverine explains, because this is interesting. So even though He's very happy in this down at heel dive bar in his current state of mind. He's still got a bit of culture and he knows what a kier is. Just shake some grenadine into a white wine for the lady, he says. So let's see. Another nice couple of pages by Andy Kubert, like these quiet scenes, no action. A strange kind of seduction going on here. Wolverine thinking about things over even as he drinks down his beer. The woman says to him, "This is certainly an eclectic selection of whatever's on that jukebox. What do Patsy Cline, Buddy Holly, Otis Redding and Stevie Ray Vaughan have in common?" And Wolverine's answer is witty. He says if all of them had waited for the bus, they would have got to where they were going. And she replies, I really like this panel here. I like the lighting on her face there and Steve Buccellato's colours from the jukebox. Is that Zen? She asks. Yeah, he says. That was then and this is now. This is really good dialogue from Larry Hama. Real kind of tough guy flirtation and banter going on here. Not for much longer, says the woman. Dance with me. This song makes me, and she pauses, lonely. So Wolverine dances with her. Great detail here on the back muscles, on his ripped vest as well. She rests her head on his shoulders. Look, he's wise to what's going on. He's no fool, no babe in the wood. How would you like to come see some really awful black velvet paintings of bullfighters? She asks him. What, no etchings? Just bullfighters. That's all they have on my motel room wall. So that brings us to the title of the story, Heartbreak Motel. And a nice little shot here of the outside of the bar, the Auger Inn, with all the bikes parked up outside. And then the scene shifts in the bottom panels on the page to the X-Mansion and Jubilee, and she can't get to sleep. Love the detail there of her window open and the curtains blowing in the night wind into her room. This is no good, she thinks. Can't turn my brain off and it's stuck on a lousy channel. Need some air to blow out the cobwebs. Need some wind in my face. So she's worried about Logan, even if she can't directly admit it to herself here. So she gets her skates on, skates all the way down to Salem Center. No traffic around here in the wee hours, she thinks. I can really get some velocity going. Wonder if the Auger Inn is still jumping. Wolvie's bike isn't here, she sees. I never heard him come back to the X-Mansion. Where could he be? So, skating around, she sees his bike parked outside the Cloud 9 motel. Triple ood, she thinks. Rude, crude, and lewd. Maybe he just wanted to be alone somewhere, right? She knows what he was up to. Time to skate on home. Girl, besides, you're no snoop, and like he said, what's it to you? But what if he's in trouble? Well, he could be, so she's going to sneak up to his room. Is this a good idea? And somebody opens the door to the room where he is. Better change into something decent if you're stepping out for a Coke, darling, says a familiar voice. So she hides behind the drinks machine. And this decent enough for you? Says the figure in silhouette. That ain't funny, he responds. Wasn't meant to be. So she puts her coins, gets a Coke, opens it, and who is it? It's Jean Grey. And that shocks Jubilee and the reader. Could this be so? I mean, of course, Logan and Jean have had something of a romantic chemistry under the pen of Chris Claremont for many years. And so here she is coming into the motel room. So what's going on? I told you that wasn't funny, says Wolverine. So what's he talking about? Irresistible. Who is that? That is, Palmer, Robert Palmer, right? On TV. That gives you a sense of the date. There he is in his suit. And that is very interesting to think of that music in connection with this scene, like the femme fatale, because that's who this is. It is Mystique. You like this one? Do you know? He says, be yourself. I've had enough of illusion. And of course that's true for Wolverine with all the tampering with his memories and the virtual reality and all of that. My whole life's been an illusion, he says. More's the pity, Logan? And it's Mystique. So there's a noise outside. What was that noise? His bike's knocked over. You know, we infer from this. I like the fact that we have to infer. Jubilee's so upset. She knocks the guy's bike over. My scoot fell over. I know it was sitting solid on his kickstand. Somebody kicked it over. Jubilee kicked it over. Now he can't smell her through the window, so he doesn't know. That's really good stuff. And then Mystique toying with him, changing into the appearance of Silver Fox. Forget about it. You know, you weren't complaining about the illusion a little while ago. Remember this? And he says, stop it. What's got into you? So that's really dark, the implication. Really dark. Does it mean that when he knew it was Mystique, he asked her to change into Silver Fox and they slept together? Really, really dark stuff implied by Larry Hama, but it would absolutely go over the head of any 12-year-old reader, I'm pretty sure. But rereading this as an adult, it's there in the subtext between the lines. So Wolverine asks her, what's gotten into you? I've just discovered myself. I want to have fun. I want to laugh. I fooled you, didn't I, back at the bar? And he says, nah, I knew you were really Mystique as soon as you walked in. Can't disguise your scent, darling, he says. And she replies, oh, just playing along out of scientific curiosity, strictly business, Mr. Logan? 'Cause I smelled something else on you. Fear, he says. Always had you pegged as a cool cucumber. What's got you sweating bullets and pulling a stunt like this? So she's now a damsel in distress. And she says, I don't even want to say her name out loud. She'll know. So she came to Salem Center looking for someone to help and looked out on Wolverine turning up in the tavern is what we infer from all of this. Like the detail here of the shadow from the slats cast over her face and Logan there behind her. She's gone off at the deep end. She was never really sane to begin with, but now. So who's Mystique talking about? We got a mystery guest, or what? She bigger than a red box? Who are we talking about here? Like, so he's asking her, why aren't you going to come out and say straight who it is that you're talking about? Let's turn the page. Oh yeah, we get a cutaway to New York City in the place called Morlock Alley. So what we have here is in previous issues, we saw that Albert was rebuilding LCD's body. And now that's all completed. The Hunter in Darkness has been hanging out in the sewage tunnels under New York City. But he's come to meet up with LCD and Albert. So they're all kind of outsider freaks in their different ways. Albert's been rebuilding the stealth bomber on the floor of the Hudson. And now it's ready to take off again. You made it look like you, says LCD. I'm glad you like it, LCD, says Albert. She's twice as stealthy as she was before, and now she has a strange matter reactor, just like the one I installed in you, only bigger. So Albert's been busy. So let's see what becomes of this trio. So he gets up on top of the stealth bomber, just as he did before. Are you all strapped in, LCD? Look at the Hunter in Darkness is there as well. And so is Puppy, she calls it. And they're there, soaring like an eagle, out of the river, free, zooming past, or through, in between the Twin Towers. Yeah, nice little sequence. So when are we going to see them again, is the question we have as readers. And at Xavier School in Westchester. So the scene switches back to Westchester. Who's this jogging at this obnoxious hour? And it's Jean. So now Jubilee knows it wasn't Jean at the motel. And she's there saying, so who was that back at the motel? It was some shape-shifting floozy, someone I can punch in the nose. So we figure that Jubilee's probably guessed it was Mystique, if she's been reading up Professor X's files on foes and antagonists of the X-Men. And at the motel, Wolverine's still enjoying his cigar, hasn't put a shirt on yet. Since the disbanding of Freedom Force and Destiny's death, I felt you were the only one I could go to, says Mystique, and I wasn't even sure you would help me. They say you changed. And Wolverine says, don't change the subject. You're about to give me another clue as to who it is that's got you all in a tizzy. But don't even bother. I got it figured. And this is really interesting. She says, she protests, don't say it, Wolverine. She has sensor probes that are grown in metallic crystal baths within a zero-gravity field. Quasi-sentient sensors that can edit their own data flow. So Wolverine responds, paranoia strikes deep, Mystique. Her name's a common word. How can a machine weed it out of the thousands of times it's said every day? You think old Spiral can? And this is really great. I like this page turn. And nice that it's on a page turn. So get ready for this. And there she is. Spiral can. It's all in the context, Wolverine. Context and nuance. So he drops his cigar finally. And there she is. That's a great, great full page image of Spiral. All armored up with those blades in 2 of her 6 hands. Yeah, really, really good stuff. Next, of Mojos and Maniacs. Next, Spiral's mad plan revealed as Mojo enters the picture and Wolverine learns the secret of the crunch. So there we go. So the letters here about issue 48. Something about following his adventures in X-Men. A question about issue 46. So a bunch of letters there. Nothing terribly interesting in them. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed my review and commentary on Wolverine number 51, part 1 of the Crunch Conundrum. Let me know your thoughts on this, on Andy Kubert's art. I think he does a really great art job on this. You know, he was getting little fill-in gigs from the X-Offices prior to his taking on Adjectiveless X-Men with issue number 14 as the regular penciler for 4 years, and kind of earning that choice by Bob Harris here with these kinds of fill-ins. Really competent and in some regards pretty cool work by him. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video and share it. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.